Yay! Welcome everybody to this live, and welcome Anthony. Dr. Anthony Mattis is with us today. I am so happy I get to host you and ask you questions. How does it get any better?
Thanks for
So
having me.
thank you for being on. And our live is about, the title is, what if you were more powerful than you know? So, what would you like to start with? And you can just go. This is your space.
This is my space.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes, geez, one of the things that I've noticed over the years, especially with me, is like when something comes very easy to you or for you, you don't tend to acknowledge that as a gift or a capacity or a talent. Maybe like people around you may see it or acknowledge it. And most oftentimes, a lot of times with certain people, like with me, a lot of my gifts and talents wasn't something that could be measured in your typical standard arenas, so to speak, like school, for example. So like what I do with like energy work, what I do with the SOP sessions, what I do with the tools of access consciousness, there was no place ever throughout my life where that could be measured, right? So you grow up thinking that you are part of this particular system, and if you don't thrive in that system, then you're less than. You're not someone who will turn out to be successful because you didn't achieve above a certain standard that would give you the greater possibilities of being successful in this reality. So it's like for some people, like it was for me, it's like, oh man, it's like I'm a loser, or oh man, I'm just going to be like normal and boring. But yet you have this thing inside your universe, like, I know there's something else. I know there's something more. I know I can be a gift. But then after a while, after time goes by, you start to give up on that idea. Now, I know you're a very smart woman, right? So according to this reality, you've exceeded. You went on to become like a medical doctor and, all those kinds of things. And so you have the best of both worlds, right? There's you exceeded what this reality says would be considered successful, but then there's this whole other side of you as well that you knew was available but didn't quite know how to access it. And so yeah, and so I kind of got lucky because I had a wonderful man named Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness. He um one day asked me to work on him after a class, and and then and when I did, by trade I'm a chiropractor, but that's not what he was really asking for. He was basically asking for me to tap into something that maybe I had hoped was there, but I kind of gave up on it. And it really was because of his ability to receive is what maybe allowed him to acknowledge these powers and potencies that I had, like I said, I put it back here because, at that time I was 45 years old. So I'd given up on that idea of it being a possibility. And yeah, so it was probably one of the greatest days of my life, with the exception of like when my children were born, because it was like one person acknowledged something and I actually experienced that day what he was perceiving. Now, I've had other gurus, I have had other mentors that would talk about my potential, but I would always get angry. I'm like, okay, well, can you help it come out?
I love that.
Anyway, so I'm getting some feedback here. I don't know why, but yeah. But it's like, so what gifts and capacities and talents do you have that you don't even know you have? And a lot of you do know you have these gifts and talents, but you're not really utilizing them at your workplace. You're not really utilizing them at home. So you sit in this frustration. You have all this wonderful energy available and no place to go with it. And that could be a source of frustration for a lot of people. And yeah, so here we are. But we all have gifts, capacities, talents, and capacities. It's just a matter of exploring them, utilizing them. And sometimes it does take that one person to bing into your universe and be that space for you to sort of begin to shine if you choose it.
Wow, I love that. And I think this is such an inspiration to all of us. The way you just put it is so beautiful and so beautifully said. And it really made me look at how many people are not actually living their lives and using their energy and being in the world as much as they could and would and desire actually to. And then we get to experience these tools. And then you spoke about the SOP and the symphony of possibilities, energies. And we get to be that in the world now and invite us to be that power and potency. And it's so beautiful because you also spoke about the willingness to receive. So when you were with someone like Gary that was willing to receive you and didn't have an expectation of what you should be and of you being this, you got to this level, so you're done, you know? So it was more of a space of invitation that he was able to be for you. So I have a question for you in regards to that. What is it that we can be for ourselves in receiving us and being that inspiration for us and being that space for us? Because not everyone gets to have someone else that bees that energy for them.
Yeah. Well, you still have to, I still had to make choices, right? I still had to choose to jump off that cliff and enter this energetic arena, if you will, of this unknown, right? And it was scary, you know, and but so I had to still make that demand in my life. I still had to, number one, you have to have the demand. Like, I'm fucking going for it no matter what. Okay? If I fall on my face, so what? At least I fucking had a blast trying. Okay? The second thing is honoring you. Okay? So to me, you know, and then what that looks like is, it's like as things show up in your life, or the things that are in your life, do they match the energy of the future you'd like to create? So it's the willingness to say yes to things that will contribute to that future you want to create. And it's also the willingness to say no to things that may appear to look good, but when you really are in the question, you're like, this isn't going to contribute to the future I'd like to create. So you say no. And that's as things come into your life, you say no, right? But then what about the things that have been in your life for 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years? It's also being willing to cut off those dead branches and say, you know what? This doesn't work for me anymore. Bye-bye. And not from a place of reaction, but it's from this space of honoring you. Because if you're not willing to cut off the dead branches, if you will, the rest of the bush, you, dies. So to me, there's a demand and then an honoring. And the honoring is being willing to say yes to certain things that will contribute to the future you'd like to create, and eliminating those things that won't or don't.
Wow, that is really amazing and really cool. And if all of us just took that and did that for us, that is so beautiful. Thank you for those. Like, I love how you put words to energies. That's one of, I get that's one of your powers.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for being that. So when you play with the symphony energies, is that also something that you have used to be that honoring for you?
Well, yeah, oh, definitely. I mean, it's amazing. And wow. we could talk about the very first day that it showed up, and then the times that I would work on people, right? Doing sessions and things like that, doing private sessions, doing group sessions, and then also facilitating the SOP and the opening of the symphony class. It's the level of clarity that opens up for me is beyond words, right? And when that actually occurs, and then what's really fun too is when I can perceive things opening up, like in your universe, if I'm working on you, even if you're not aware of it, I can sense it. And it's like, wow. And it's like that, like energetic awareness is that thing that I always knew was available when I was little. But the only times that I would ever see it would be in like a science fiction movie or something, you know? So yes. And then what begins to occur is you start to become more sensitive, not in a bad way, but to the energies around you, from the clothes that you wear, from the plants you decide to plant in your garden, or the trees, or the bushes, or when you go to different countries, you become acutely aware of the energies and like the cultural programming and entrainment, the good, the bad, and the ugly of it, like really without a point of view, but you start to tap into more energies, which is so fucking fun. You know, it's weird. It's like I was never great at traditional school and I never could care less about history. But until I started doing Access and I get to work with all you beautiful people from different countries, now I have a curiosity about what man has created, right? Because then that gives me an awareness of the limitations in which so many people are functioning from in different cultures, which keeps them from accessing this infinite energy. And that's fun. And it's not from a space of judgment. So it's like I just signed up for this thing about like 10 minutes a day to study like little blurbs of history, just to, that's all I really need. But not, and I know in history, we can get into like, history is like what they decide to write in the books, not what actually happened. I understand that. But at least you can perceive certain things, and that gives me more information of what I'm already sensing without actually having the information, which is really fun. So that's another power that sort of opened up to me. And now all of a sudden I'm like, I am curious about history. And I do. And I understand, again, it's the history that they want you to know. They like to brainwash people. But then you also can sense what went on underneath that, right? So that's been a fun, interesting awakening, so to speak, for me.
I like that. It's if I understand well what you're saying, it's using that energetic capacity and awareness and sensitivity to look at what is true here and what's a lie, and then not having a point of view about it and using it to your advantage, and also changing what you get to change. So
well, yeah, but at the end of the day, like change for me, but also change for the people that I'm working on, because it's
yes.
like then I can invite them to this energetic space beyond their cultural programming and cultural entrainment, because we are really infinite beings at the end of the day. But so many of us are like, I'm an American, you know what I mean? It's like, really? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm an Arab. It's like, really? You're an infinite being. You just, your DNA is that this lifetime, right? So it's like, why limit yourself? But then people wonder why they're frustrated and they're limited. It's because they're constantly fighting against what they've decided is right and wrong in life based on their culture or their religion. It's like, what's beyond that?
Exactly. I personally never understood like belonging and the identity. So my whole life was like, what do you mean, where am I from? So I totally get that. And Access has been such a beautiful space for me to be that infinite being and also play with the energies. And yesterday I was with someone that a lady that took the opening of the symphony with you, and she took it online a few weeks ago, and she was so excited, and I could see in her world how much that added to her universe of possibilities. And we were playing and she was SOPing me. And I'm like, wow, this is such a beauty that the world requires right now. And one of the things that I wanted to do and be through this live is to invite people to these classes as well and be like, hey, this is available. So we do have the opening of the symphony in Dubai, since we're talking to a lot of people that may be able to travel there. I think everyone can travel there, but the beauty is that they can also attend online and also attend through this thing we call satellites, where you get to gather with people somewhere in the world and attend these classes. And with that, if you could share what it is for you, Anthony. But for me, it's like when I get to a class like this, whether it's the opening of the symphony or the Symphony of Possibilities, or a session with you, or a group session, like a private session or a group session, when I add this to my world, it makes me greater, not as in I was lacking something, but it opens up my eyes and my world and my energy to even more possibilities. And I wonder if you could say something about that.
Well, you just did. That was perfect. I mean, that's exactly it. And I was like sort of alluding to that earlier, where it's like it's my awareness of the world around me became more heightened. Everything from cultures to people's limitations to what's actually possible and available, to what's going on in people's bodies, and if they just went beep, they would have more ease with it, right? So
That
let me just say, coming live is a whole nother experience than online. You can do it online if you can't make it. I've done both, but there is something magical about being in person with people there. That's just extra. So if you can make it, come. It's magical, and it can be very uncomfortable all at the same time. But the parts that are uncomfortable, if you're willing to go beyond it and look at it and get facilitated through it, what's available to you is something that you've either always has imagined was possible or didn't even know was possible. So if you can get there in person, please come, especially like in the Middle East, where these sorts of things are like just starting to come around and be allowed to come into these countries. Why wouldn't you want to be there in person? That's my interesting point of view.
Interestingly, it's mine too. I'm like, I was talking to my friend yesterday that did the opening of the symphony. I'm like, you need to come to Dubai. These classes are there, and
Yeah.
for me, it's like if I can go to a live class, especially with these classes where you get to explore the energetics and the body with the bodies. And I have a question. Do we get to swap in an opening of the symphony?
Oh, yeah.
Do we get to swap symphony sessions?
Yeah, it's kind of like the bars. You know how like you swap in the bars? So we try to do, 2 trades in the morning and then 2 trades in the afternoon. I mean, it's not linear like that, but yeah, I get people start working on each other right away. Absolutely. So it'll be 4 days of playing with SOP. And then you have the SOP class as well, where we'll be gifting and receiving. One thing I would like to talk about is, I don't remember. So who was the man who had the vision of Dubai, like back in the 70s? What was his name? Like when Dubai was nothing but a desert.
I am very bad with names.
Okay. Well, those of you who know, I mean, look at the vision he saw, and everybody thought he was crazy. And he built a city in the sand, right? And now we have these things like access consciousness, Symphony of Possibilities, opening of the symphony, coming to the Middle East. It's like, to me, it's like when you look at this guy, when you see old videos of what his vision was and the actualization of it now that we all get to enjoy, what could that contribute to the class? You know what I mean? And it's like, what else is possible for all of our futures? Are you willing to be, I guess, would it be a futurist or someone who sees out into the future what's possible and available to you? So I don't know. I just think it's really cool. It's happening in Dubai. And there I go again, but blah.
I think it's wonderful. I like you inviting. I'm excited. I'm not there yet, but I'm excited to go. And that's a beautiful way to see it. Like when you talked about the history, like the change of the energies throughout the time and space. And we're like, yay, we get to explore that. And as you said, we have one day of the opening of the symphony with you, and then we have 3 days of Symphony of Possibilities with Dane. And I wonder what can that create for us and the world. And you so beautifully be in the classes of the opening of the symphony that I want to also mention. You contribute to each person in the class. So I just want to give some sort of picture for people who have never been to an opening of the symphony, which you only need a foundation class to go to. Is that insane or what? So if you want to explore these energies, you just need a foundation class. And if you haven't had a foundation, you still have time to do one and then come to the class. And then you can also have different prereqs for, no, you do require different prereqs for the Symphony of Possibilities. I'm not going to say mistakes. You have to check on the website.
You need the ESB as well, the energetic synthesis of being class, before you do the SOP. Correct.
And I think also the choice for possibilities as well.
That's it.
Yeah. So I'm like, I don't know about prereqs. They always change. So
I know, me too.
But we always have links that have everything that you require, and you can ask us as well and send us a message. But what I wanted to look at with you, Anthony, is how you invite people into that energy, because a lot of people, just jump through it, and a lot of people have this pull. They kind of sit back, and I love seeing you contribute to people when they are swapping. And someone who has never been to a class may not have seen you, but I love seeing you do that. And I wonder if you can share. I mean, you've said already a lot, but is there anything else that you would like to share about how you contribute to someone gifting?
Well, yeah, I mean, there never really is a how. It's because everybody wants to look for that formula, right? They want to look for the method. There is no method. And it was that first day that I worked on Gary Douglas, and then I ended up also working on, Dr. Dane as well, the creator of this SOP energies and in classes in the ESB, energetic synthesis of being. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea. Right. And so when Gary's like, hey, we'd like you to start, doing sessions in the back of our advanced classes if you want to. And I'm like, well, yeah, but I don't know what I'm doing. That's exactly what I said. And they're like, and Gary laughed. He's like, it's your being. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, because you like me? And he's like, no, it's because you're being. And I'm like, because you feel sorry for me because I'm a widower? And he's like, no, you feel sorry because I got my kids. I'm a single, dad raising 3 kids by myself. They're like laughing. And they're like, no, it's your being. And I didn't really know what that meant. So it's an energy, right? It's the being, right? And so then from then on, I actually started asking to be able to perceive and receive what they meant by that. That was 10 years ago. And I would say I've probably have become aware about that much, which is like that much compared to where I was. But I'm still asking to really perceive and receive the infinite, of the whole thing. So when I go around and I contribute to people, I'm just being me. I'm inviting them to this universe where they can access their being. I'm not saying I am going to bestow these SOP energies into your universe and then you will now become them. No, I'm not putting something inside of anybody. I'm not, singing Kumbaya and doing some ritual and all of a sudden, no, it's more of like opening up a door and say, hey, come through these multiple doorways of possibilities, and there you will have more access of you. And that's, to me, how I put it. It's where they start to go, oh my God, that's me. What? And then they can then be them when they work on someone else. So it's a process, because we're not taught how to access our beings. We're not. We're taught to define ourselves. We are taught to fit into these boxes of right and wrongs. We're taught to control our energies, not be out of control. We're just taught a lot of fucked up shit that limits us. So when I go around and contribute to everyone, it's like inviting them to this energetic party of possibilities so they can start to access more of them. And then when they work on people, they're doing the same. And hopefully at the end of the day, everyone has a greater sense of who they are, but they may not still know what the fuck they're doing. It's okay. But my target is that at least more than 90% of the people in the class got a greater sense of themselves. So it's not about me teaching them how to do it. It's about showing them how to be it. And that just comes with showing up, them lowering their walls and barriers, maybe getting rid of the idea of having to prove anything. And if they're willing to be that space, what they can actually receive will be mind-blowing. And then it becomes part of them forever, that nobody can ever take away from them. But if they show up proving, oh, I'm a master certified this, that, and the other thing, and I am very spiritual and all, well, then they're probably not going to receive from the class as much as they could, because that's a definition and a limitation. So it's up to them.
It is up to them.
So it truly is a world of magic, miracles, mysteries, impossibilities. And I promise you, it won't violate anything with God or Allah. I promise.
I love that. It's so beautiful. We only get more of us, and whatever comes with that, it's so beautiful. Thank you for saying, thank you for putting words so beautifully on the energy. And I get this is a beautiful place to end. Is there anything else you would like to add?
No. Other thanks for listening. And what else is possible? And at the end of the day, ask yourself, if I choose these classes, what will my life be like in 5 years? If it's expansive and light and fun, go for it.
That's one of my favorite questions. When I started Access, I was like, okay, if I can just, get the energy of whatever I'm choosing. Okay, what would be my life in 5 years if I choose this? Boom. And I'm like, yes, let's go.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to make any sense whatsoever. And for those of you who are like, it's heavy, that doesn't mean it's a no. It just means that maybe a lot of your reference points and stability points and your points of view may begin to dissolve. And that could be uncomfortable for a lot of people. So ask yourself, when you get, oh, it's heavy, don't conclude that it's a no. It just means you may get your ass handed to you And it might be a little uncomfortable, but if you're willing to be vulnerable and be with it, what's beyond that is the magic of you. I promise. I've been there.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much, Anthony. Thank
My
you.
pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Amazing.
Thanks, everybody. Translators, you're awesome.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you soon. Maybe in Dubai.
Bye.
Bye.